Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome to Classes and Objects meant for the AP Computer Science A test. And to begin with, we're going to start off with a simple line on line 5 that says string fruit equals new string apple. And this line looks like it doesn't mean much, but it's a pretty important line for understanding what classes are like. To just begin with, we'll just look over each keyword, with string being the class name, fruits being the name of the object that we are creating based off the class, and new being a keyword showing that we're creating this constructor, which should not mean sense to you yet. And then the string apple being a constructor, with apple being a parameter passed inside to state the name of the fruits that we just created with code. So let's just start off by making a class, specifically an animal class.
Yeah,
And
okay.
just can I get this one?
Yeah. Wait, we're gonna say something then.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so just 3, 2, 1. So essentially, classes are they're kind of templates for the objects that you make. For example, let's say we were making a BMW object, right? We would have a car class, and this car would have attributes to it, such as it would have what is it, electric or not, or is it a how many wheels does it have, right? Or like what's the engine name, or what color is the car, essentially.
Wait,
Those are some
one
attributes.
second. I feel like maybe you should talk about like animal then. Like talk about that and then we'll create the
Oh
animal.
yeah, that's true. I guess. Yeah, I was just trying to go into a different type of, but yeah. So essentially, uh, so to begin with, classes are sort of templates for your objects, in the sense that, let's say we're making an animal class, which we're about to. Each and every animal has certain properties to it. For example, each animal has a certain like color that's associated with, right? So like, you could create a dog, and the dog could be brown. Each animal could also have a name. So let's say you created this dog and its name was Doug, right? And each animal could also have an age and other attributes to it. And the object was like, it just takes that template that a class creates, and it creates a certain object, like it creates the dog, or in that case, it creates the fruit. So I'll let Akil take over and explain the declaration of classes and public versus privates.
Yeah, okay. We'll start off with just like declaring the class. So we can start off with public class animal. And I'll explain like the keywords just as soon as I quickly get write the basics. And we'll give it its like characteristics or what is called instance variables. And like we had public string name. Sorry, this would be private,
Mhm.
private, in age. And then we'll do one more, which is private string color. Okay, so let's start off with highlighting two keywords, public and private here. And basically, public is what it means, which is like accessible to everyone. So when I'm in the main method, I can access this animal class. But private, on the other hand, is, well, also what it means, private, and only this class will be able to access these instance variables. And this is a good thing because you don't want people from like other classes changing this name or this age here, and you want to just keep it within the animal. And it's super important to use this private keyword. And I believe that you get like awarded points on the AP exam just for using this private keyword. And yeah, okay. You want to move on to constructors? Hello? Ariama?
My bad. All right. So the next thing we want after declaring our class and naming our variables is our constructor. And just like back in that main.java string fruit, the string object that was a fruit, we had a constructor that said string parentheses apple. And in this case, we have the string class, right? This is a constructor with the parameter apple inside it. And just like that, we're going to create a constructor. So let's go back to animal.java and let's create this constructor. So like every constructor, we have a public because we want it to be seen by like outside of the class, and then animal. And pretty much every constructor always uses the name of the class as its constructor. And then we want to insert parameters, which are string name, integer age, and the string color, which are the same variables that we created up top. And then once we created our constructor, top constructor, we need to know what to put inside the constructor to really construct this object. And to do that, we now use the this dot keyword essentially in this case. So let's just go ahead and write a few variables and I'll explain what that is.
And also to point out, like the names in this constructor right here don't necessarily have to be the same as your instance variables, but it always helps and it makes it much easier.
Yes, and if they do, then you have to use this dot, but it's recommended that you use this dot anyway, just to not mess up on the AP test. So let's just go over this. This dot is essentially a placeholder keyword. So since it doesn't know your object name, since your class, this dot is like a placeholder for your object name essentially. So if your object name is fruit, it would be like the fruit's name, because essentially what we're given by the constructor is three variables. Like those are the parameters, right? Those are the three things we're given, but we have to connect them to the object that we just created. So in this case, it'd be this dot name equals name, this dot age equals age, and this dot color equals color. So and then now that we constructed these objects, we can go on to creating one of the last things that you need to create for classes, and those are the methods. And there's three types of methods we're going to get to. So now let's go over the getters, which is one of the first methods you need to know, and that's essentially so that when you're using the object outside of the class, you need to be able to obtain the information, the attributes about this class. So let's just create one right now. Let's say so it'd be like public because we want to use it outside of the class, right? So in this case, we have string because, and then get name, and I'll go over why it's string really quickly, and with no parameters, and then it's a fairly simple return this dot name. Right. So essentially a public because we want it to be seen outside of the class, string because we're essentially returning a string. We have get name, and that's just like the getter, so it's get and then name because we're getting the name, and then we're just returning the name of the object. That's all it is. So and then let's just move on to let's just fill out the other get name the getters. And then we'll just change that to int, and then get age. Then we'll return age. Then we'll change this one. This one's a string. This one's a string, and then we just get color, return color. Now we're done with the getters. It's just that simple. That's all it is really. And then finally, one more thing we're gonna do is setters, which are pretty similar, except we don't really return anything in this case. So Setters are essentially, let's say we want to change with the attribute. Let's say we created this object. The name of the object is Doug, but then like Doug wants to change his name to Bob, right? So then we could use the setter. So to do that, let's create a public because remember, like, once again, we want to use this outside of the class, and then void, and then yeah, set name, string name, and then we just want to say this dot name equals name. So this is very similar to a constructor. If you see, we have a parameter string name, and then bring this dot name equals name. So essentially, we're given a name, we're given the name, and then we're changing the object's name to the name that we're just given. And we also have void because we're not returning anything. Notice we're just changing the name of the object. We're not returning anything. And we have set name because you're setting the name. So we're not gonna go ahead and make the other ones. They're fairly straightforward. We will use this in our implementation of the class. And so one more thing about setters, you're usually not going to be required to write all of them. In fact, you're probably going to only need to be required one of them. But usually getters, you're going to need to write all of them. And then finally, one more thing we want to go over. I'll let Akil take over this one, which is toString.
Yeah, and also just notice how all of these are public because you're using them outside of this class to call them. So to set up the toString, you're gonna write public string toString with no parameters. And the reason why we have string here is because we are returning a string type. So we need to make sure to include that in our method. And yeah, basically the purpose of a toString is to get all the values out. And you can't, like, say if you're trying to print this object, it's just going to give you like its memory location and not like its actual attributes. So you'd want to use a toString to tell the user just what the object's about. And here we just have this all in one string with the name plus the name variable, the age plus the age variable, finally the color plus the color variable. And with all this, our class design is complete.
All right, so now it's time to go implement our class. We'll just go to main.java. So first things first, just like we did with a string object, we're going to declare the object once again, except this is going to be an animal object, and we'll call this a monkey. So it's a monkey named Fitzgerald, and it's a new animal, and the age is 5 because uh, remember that that's what we put for the age, and then we gave it a color too. In that case, it's brown. So now that we've declared it, let's just run some methods on it. So yeah, the first thing we can do is we can just check out the toString and see if there's any bugs with that, and we'll just see what the toString gives us. All right, here we go. So essentially, from this line, we notice we're printing out the toString, and we're not just writing the toString itself because the toString just is a function that returns a string, and it's not necessarily printing it out. So we need to print it out ourselves once again with system.out.println. And now we print it out, we get our name is Fitzgerald, age is 5, and color is brown. That's a pretty straightforward method. Let's just try out some of the getters. How about that? So let's do system.println monkey.getName. We'll print that out. And below we should get Fitzgerald in the bottom. There we go. That's our name. Let's try a setter. Let's try setting our name. All right, let's try creating just changing the name of our monkey from Fitzgerald to let's say Bob, which I've used way too many times in this video. We'll set name to Bob. And now let's try printing out the get name once again below. We'll just copy paste that and then let's run that. All right, there we go. And now we see that we change our name, just like a setter does, how a setter does. It changes the attribute, and we get monkey dog get name. We print that out, and then we get Bob. And there we go. That's pretty much everything you need to know from a class. So just a review, we had our with objects, we had our object declaration, which is class name, object name equals new class, new, and then constructor. And then we tested out the toString get name, set name, and then get name once again. And then on to an animal.java, we had our class declaration. We had our argument over public versus private. We had, most importantly, our constructor and our variables that we declared. Remember, the variable is always private, and the methods are public, and the constructor is also public, and so is the class. And remember to use this dot. We highly recommend using it every single time in your AP test, just to never mess up and lose some careless mistakes. So that's it for this video. Thank you for listening, and we'll hope to see you in the next one.